detention center visit?
Okay, so the question is, when I go to a nice detention center to visit a friend or a loved one, how can I make the most out of that visit, and what should I expect generally? And so, first and foremost, the way to think about ICE detention centers is that they are camouflaged jails. They are ran by the same companies that run jails. Typically, it's CCA, which is Core Civic, or Geo Group, and so sometimes they will have adjacent jails or prisons next to them. And so everything that you typically expect in a jail, you will also expect in a detention center. Although detention centers do tend to be a little more lax and there's a little bit more freedom. However, not so much when it comes to visitation. And so first and foremost, be prepared to wait and wait a long time. And so when you go up to the detention center, typically they will be in the middle of nowhere, and they will have a huge parking lot. And so make sure to leave your cell phone inside your car, because it will not be allowed in. You will be typically go through metal detectors, so anything that's metal or knives, guns, definitely not. In addition to that, when you go up to the visitor center, when you're about to enter and visit a loved one, it could take you 2 hours sometimes, depending. So jails have this thing called counting, and so they count the detainees or the inmates. And so if you're during a period of counting, and that varies by jail sometimes, or by detention center in this case, you could be waiting up to a couple hours. And I've waited that, and I'm an attorney, and so for the general public, it could take longer. Now that being said, it could take sometimes 45 minutes or an hour. And so that's a first consideration. Second consideration, you want to make sure that you can get all the paperwork that the detainee has. Okay, so if your loved one was booked, let's say at Foxton or I don't know, Stewart or Irwin, for example, in the Georgia area, you want to go up to the windows. So you'll just like in jail typically, you'll go and you will pick up the phone to talk to your loved ones, and then underneath there will be kind of a bulletproof glass, and then underneath you can slide papers back and forth. And so one of the things to do is you want to see if you can get access to that paperwork so that you can make copies and then return them. And here's why this becomes important, because if you want to get an attorney, and for example this center is in the middle of nowhere, you still have the copies of these documents, and the attorney doesn't have to go several times to the detention center, and it costs a lot more, and also it makes it a lot harder, and it also takes a lot longer for them to get the information that they need and for them to start processing the case. Okay, so take the originals or whatever was given to the detainee or whatever the detainee has, and make copies of it, and then return them the originals. Okay, the originals are gold. You never want to send originals to any government body unless asked. And so that includes ICE, that includes CBP, Customs Border Patrol, that includes USCIS, that includes DHS overall, or Department of State. Okay, so that's maybe the most important consideration. While you're at the detention facility, you can imagine what it's like being on the inside. And so it's not as bad as a jail, but nonetheless, it does make you feel like you're never gonna get out. And so just try to, lastly, just try to encourage your loved ones and try to, tell them kind of what's going on. And if there's an attorney that you've engaged, tell them about that. And then the attorney, can take it from there. And, sometimes attorneys can have, they can definitely have calls with their clients, but in addition to that, throughout the country now they can do Skype calls and things like that. So it's really important that you give them some of these different options, and you tell them that, listen, relief is on the way. Of course, you never know what the outcome is going to be because every case is different, but at the very least, you give them a better fighting chance if they are on a positive frame of mind. Then alternatively, you tell them, sorry, your case has no, there's no good news, about your case. And so, especially in the beginning stages, you never know. So those are some of the considerations to think about when you visit a detention center. Thank you for watching, and if you appreciate the content, we'd love it if you could give us a thumbs up underneath, leave us any comments about what you like or even what you don't like. And lastly, if you think someone else could use it, feel free to share it with them. And ultimately, if you need our help, reach out to us, call us. The information is below in the description section of the video. Thank you.